Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. This is number 4 on our table saw series. Might be a little bit shorter today because we got to get ready for tonight. By the way, tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're doing our live broadcast where we're building the, I'm not going to say we're going to finish it, but we're working on the bed desk for Angie. So if you want to tune in, you know how to do that. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, you should do that. I'm supposed to remember to say that every time, but I don't. Also, just a quick note on, we'll call it YouTube etiquette. It's really nice, and I don't do it for this reason, but it's really nice to go on there and read positive comments. I appreciate all the people that have gone in there and said, look, I really enjoy this. That motivates me or anybody else to continue to do it. If the audience is enjoying it and they're telling you that, then you continue to do it, and we're constantly thinking about ways or ideas of others that we can do. So keep it up. I try to go on there and answer the questions as often as possible. Sometimes Jake answers them as me, but it's essentially the same response, same answer. Somebody had a question from yesterday, and I forgot what it was. Hopefully I'll remember before we're done. What I want to go through today is some of the accessories that I made for a table saw that I think make it extremely efficient. And I was just getting ready to do some window frames for my window trim for my daughter, building an apartment upstairs. So this is my sled for cutting a flat miter. And what's really nice about this, and I want to show you this little technique. This was taught to me by Dale Nish. And I apologize, I didn't have any wood ready. I think I can grab something. Okay, I got a couple pieces of pine. I think they're about 1 3/4 inches. I didn't actually measure it, but actually 1 13/16 inches. So you're going to do a frame. Well, here's something that I said Dale Nish taught me. And in fact, that's where I first saw this. So you go in and you would get close. Slow down as you exit so you don't tear anything right in there. You're close with the two of them. In other words, if I had a line on there, I would be just a little bit away from the line. Then you would bring both pieces in. And your final cut, now this is assuming that you're not a hand plane fan and using your hand plane with your miter shooting board. Then you go in and you make a cut through both of them at the same time. And what that will typically do is give you your best bet at getting a nice tight miter. Now, if you watched my video on making a sled, or actually we did that on the, yeah, you got to go in the live workshop, and it was a long one, it was 2 hours. But the first thing I do is I make two, can't even think, rails we're going to call them. And they've got to fit in there perfectly with no slop. And get them both, and then I put them in, so I put something underneath them so they're raised up a little bit above the surface. And then I bring my miter gauge, my fence over, bearing in mind that that's off just a little bit. And I set that down on top of them. There's going to be glue on them. Set that down on top. Just moving this over so we actually can do this right. Set it down on top, weight it. Let the glue dry first. Once the glue is dry, then go in and screw them in place as a little extra security. If you try to screw them while the glue is still wet, they're going to move on you, and no, it doesn't work. Then, once you do that, and occasionally you have to continue to do this, you've got to go in there and I move that forward and back multiple times, take it out, and areas where it's rubbing will show up as black spots. And I just take a card scraper, or you can take the edge of a chisel, laying it flat against the side, and just scrape that until you finally get that so that it's smooth. It moves nice and smooth. You don't want it to be stiff at all because that's going to be jerky and it's going to cause you to push, and then it'll eventually let go, and you want to be able to pass through that wood nice and smooth, lots of control. Now, what did I do to this? I added sandpaper. I get this stuff. I'll show you what it is. I buy it from Woodcraft. Excuse me. It's made by Porter Cable. It's a little bit expensive, but it's got an adhesive back. So this is $3.20. And for stuff like this, it's fantastic because you can just unwind it, glue it in place, and then it gives you great grip. Anytime you cut a miter, especially as your blade starts to dull a little bit, the table saw, the action of cutting is going to want to be pushing it back, sliding it back. So having that abrasive in there holds it in place nicely. I honestly can't remember exactly how I set this up to be a perfect 45. I would guess and say that I used my combination square. And I apologize for not remembering. If I do remember in the near future, we'll go in and do it again. But get one side perfect, and then you can use your accurate square to set the other one in place. And then I got lots of support behind it. Again, it's made out of 1-inch MDF. And if you're wondering why I have this relatively thin, is so that I could have maximum capacity, cutting capacity with my blade. If I'd have made this out of 3/4 or 1-inch stock, then all of a sudden you're going to lose that same inch in your ability to cut. Because I oftentimes, and the reason why, by the way, that this is high like this, if I'm cutting crown molding, you can lay your crown molding right in there like that and do the same thing with the two pieces. That little pass through the final joint just does a wonderful job of making that extremely precise. All right, so that's the miter gauge one. Here's my, like I said, if you go on to our channel, RobCosman.com, and go to our live events, we made one of these, and I walked you through the entire process. But a nice big sled like this with as much capacity as you can handle this way, so you can support a long piece of wood. And the reason we have this is because it's cut through halfway, so you need to be able to pull this all together. And back here, I always put an even entire piece so that I have lots of material holding the two sides together. And what have I got in here? I've got 20 and 5/8. So you want the capacity in here, especially when you're handling a big piece. And the handle right there just makes it a little bit easier to handle. Oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, so these are Osage orange. It's just a really hard wood, and it wears well. This one is my 45. So you have, and then this is the reason why I have separate sleds for a 45 and for a 90, because you don't want to be using both, because then you're going to have a big chunk of wood missing, right? If you'd cut a 45 on this one, you'd lose a whole triangular piece right there. And it's all about that zero clearance. Zero clearance, particularly on this. In fact, let me show you. Here's the one I decided I had to replace. Now, we'll use this, but we'll use this for rough work. So over the years, blade run out, pieces get jammed in there. You can see how big that opening is. I no longer have zero clearance. Zero clearance allows you to make those cuts on a piece of plywood and have it absolutely splinter-free on the bottom side. Actually, I was going to say this video is going to be short. It's not. It's going to be long. So there's your 45. You got to take your split. Do we have to take the splitter out when we use this? I think so. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Set that in place. Again, lots of capacity. That's all fairly standard. Now, one more accessory for this part of the table saw. This is my sleeve. If you run a dado and you're cutting a rabbet on the edge of a board, so let's assume that I am going to remove this much material. I want to get rid of that, okay? I prefer to keep the the blade as close to the fence as possible. So rather than have your dado in there and have it cutting out here, and the problem with doing that, especially in a dado, there's a lot of force pushing the wood back this way. Close like that's not too bad, but you can imagine if you're that far away and now you're cutting a piece of wood and you're cutting a rabbet way out here, this is wanting to pull the wood like that, pulling it away from your fence, losing control, firing it back at you. So keep your cutting close to the fence. So what do you do to protect your main fence? Well, this is my sleeve. So it's made out of 1-inch MDF. This piece right here is the same width as the fence. And I make it so that I can replace this section when it gets chewed up too much. The bolts run across the top, so when I slide this on, like so, and then tighten these up, that squeezes the sides of the sleeve against the fence, and holds it in place. I can't move that. Now what you can do, because particularly this is 1 inch, you've got your dado stack in there. It might be 3/4 inch wide dado stack, and you want to cut a 1/2 inch rabbet. So you need to cover 1/4 of an inch of that dado stack. So you can simply move that over. Now actually what I would do is I would wind this down. Then I would move this over to where I want it, and then turn the saw on and wind it up, and it'll come up and cut its relief up in here. Now you can come in and you can far more safely cut your rabbet like that. This is good. I came up with this idea 30 years ago, and I've used it constantly because it is very effective. And the other nice thing too, if you're cutting something, you're cutting tenons. You can demonstrate this. You're cutting tenons on your table saw. What you can do, it's nice to have that extra capacity. And what I mean by that is not so much extra capacity, extra reference. Your regular fence is only going to be up this high, and you're trying to cut a piece of wood like that. What you can do, if you want to cut a tenon in here, that's a little bit bigger than what I need. Let me get a smaller one. You can clamp that on. Now you can go through. Got lots of support this way, and I always check it with my square to make sure it's square. Run that through. I didn't put the, I'm not going to bother doing another one. Then flip it over and do the other one, and you can repeat it as many times as you need. But this piece clamped up here gives you lots of support, so it's not tipping one way or the other. Lots of reference surface here. Makes for a very accurate job. Okay, last thing I want to tell you about is our router table at the end. What's really convenient about this is you get to use that fence for your router table as well. Now, I just threw this together. Oftentimes, we're in a hurry. I've got to make behind deadlines. So I just made this box to come over here so I can run my hose from the dust collector right on back here. So when I'm routing, the dust is being pulled away. I got a piece of plexiglass up there so I can see what I'm doing. And I made this so it's replaceable. In fact, I even have a collar in here that sits on a rabbet so that that too is replaceable. And again, it's all about zero clearance. If you look underneath, it's a little bit awkward to get at, but you got to be somewhat of a gymnast to be a woodworker. I can drop that down and get at it. I have a suction hose right here. By the way, just in case you're interested and you want a recommendation, that is a DeWalt. I'm going to give you the numbers on it. I really like this router. This was a design, belonged to Elu, which was a great, I remember Alan Peters loved Elu routers, English company, I think. Might have been European, I'll say that, because I don't think it was English. I think it was actually German. So this is the DW621. And this is one of the designs, the Elu designs, that when Black & Decker bought them, that they kept. And that is it's a 1/2 inch capacity. But of course, you can always use a collet to use either a 3/8 router bit or a 1/4 inch router bit. Fantastic adjustments over here for resetting your depth of cut. It's got really good, and most routers don't, has really good dust collection. Thoroughly impressed. I like the collet lock. The collet lock is really easy to use. The only thing I dislike is this is the most awkward on and off button. You have to, you wouldn't believe how many times I have to play with this thing to try to get it. I can't even do it. But it's one of those, definitely won't go on accidentally because you have to frig with it for 1/2 an hour to get it turned on. That's the downside. Anyway, other than that, great router. Okay, now what I want to do is, in wrapping this up, don't forget tonight our live workshop. I just thought about this. So if you're sitting at home and you're bored stiff, or you're just looking to increase your base knowledge, we have what's called our online workshop. So Jake and I started this in 2011. And a friend of mine, John from New York, is the one that put me onto it. He said, Rob, you should be doing this. And the bandwidth had increased, so it became possible. So we've been doing it for 9 years. We used to film a 1/2-hour episode 5 days a week. And what we would do is we would walk you through the process of building a piece of furniture. In fact, if you look around here, The very first project we did was this. How long are we into this, Jake? 15. Yeah, it's Saturday. They're looking for stuff to do. I'll show you this. Odd that I still have this around, but I do. The very first project we did, we started what was called the hand tool workshop. And the hand tool workshop was everything done by hand, meaning we started off with rough boards and we finished this with nothing but hand tools. This is pine. It was designed to be a little candle box, had a sliding lid on it. Half-blind dovetails, front and back, a groove cut to house the bottom, a little bit of shaping on the lid. We did that with a scrub plane. And there you go. And every step of the way, from choosing material to the layout to all of it. We've also we did those upper cabinets. Well, pardon me, let me back up a little bit. We were about 6 months into the hand tool workshop, and I realized these guys are at home trying to build stuff on a workmate or a kitchen table. They need a decent bench, which, by the way, is where we got the original idea for, Jake, where's that video? Gone? Anyway, we just released it yesterday. But this is where the original idea came from for the $100 bench, where we make it out of MDF and plywood. And we did that because you couldn't build a bench without a bench to work on. And I wanted to approach this as, I'm the guy who's just getting started and I don't have all these nice tools. So we did a lot of this like you would do it in your own garage. So that was actually the very first project in the hand tool workshop, which we started in January. Jake, I'm over here. The next project we did was we built the bench. Then we started working on this cabinet. Now, so I listened to you guys and I said, Rob, we'd like to have a tool cabinet. I said, well, let's make it match. So bird's eye and mahogany. We built it first, prototype, right? Inexpensive materials, plywood, whatever. Built it, worked with it. The idea was we'll build the prototype. By the way, we started with a model. Then we built the full-size mock-up. We said, we'll work with this, and over a period of 6 months or a year, see if we like it. In other words, are things where we want them to be. We made numerous changes, and now that we like what we're doing, we're working on finishing it. So this section is finished. Again, and by the way, come over here, Jake, please. So the bottom section, this is where I keep all my shooting boards. This is where I keep all of this is mahogany and that's actually aspen. There's all my drilling supplies. Then we got this section done. So this is our drawers full of all the stuff that we use a lot. That's why I can never find a pen, because they're always in here. Of course, all the dovetails and whatever. Now, then we got to finish the rest of the base. The bottom of section is done, but we still have to finish the drawers here and whatever. And then we'll start on the top, and we'll replace each section with the real thing. What else did we do? We did the mobile tool clamp rack. This was one of our projects. One of our other hand tool projects was this, called a bench slave. And this is something so that if you're planing a long board, you need support out here, you can just put this pin anywhere you need, and that offers you support. It's a little more complicated than it looks. We did these cabinets, upper cabinets. We did the base cabinets. Can you think of anything else in here? A lot of stuff. There's a ton of stuff. In fact, there's over 2,500 episodes on there that you have access to if you want to be a member. Now, this is something that you have to pay for. If you're a combat wounded veteran, you get that for free for life. So you contact me and we'll make sure that you get set up with a membership. You guys deserve it. Not that the other guys don't, but somebody has to pay for it. So I just want to show you in closing, this is what we're currently working on. And this is I figured out the secret to success in woodworking. Get paid to build stuff you want to build without having to worry about people breathing down your neck. Why isn't it done yet? So this is a standing desk. If you think back at the time when there was a lumber yards where you would go to get your lumber, and I grew up with a mill just down the street, and I would go there and get my lumber. So the guy behind that was taking care of the lumber yard would be up and down out of his desk or in and out of his shack all day, getting you your materials and then writing up your bill. So rather than sitting at a desk, they would have a standing desk. So this one is out of cherry. Now, what we're about to start to work on the final piece. Remember, everything's built from a prototype first. So that thing over there that you see is the prototype. This is part of it. So we have to make a section that will sit up here, and that's where your envelopes and whatever will sit. And instead of the pigeonholes this way, which would interfere with the lid, the opening the lid, they're standing that way. But I just want to show you some of the things. So we did that at cherry and holly. So, and this one, I'm talking too fast. For how many years, Jake, did we do 5 episodes a week? 7 years. We filmed a half-hour episode every day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, including Christmas week. And then with my travel schedule and our classes we're teaching, I just couldn't manage it anymore. So we cut it back. We closed out the hand tool workshop and turned it into what's called Rob's online library, hand tool library. So that's a separate membership as well. And now what we do is we combine both hand tools and power tools, what some people would call a hybrid, and we build furniture using the best of both. Power tools do a great job at dimensioning your lumber quickly and getting things close, but hand tools perfect it. So the base is all put together with through wedge tenons. And the accent wood that we're using is holly. You know the little thing, deck the halls with boughs of holly? Beautiful wood, terribly expensive, but nice and white. And boy, does it make dovetails pop. And there's no finish on there yet even. So that's what the base is, all through wedge tenons. In case you don't understand, what you're looking at is inside this piece is a mortise cut, sloped like a dovetail. This piece is this coming all the way through. Before you put it in, you make 2 cuts in it. Bring it through, and then you drive 2 wedges that are the same shape as the area in here not filled by this piece. Glue it, put it together, and it opens it up, and it becomes an internal dovetail, extremely strong. And I wanted to show it off, so that's why the white holly wedges. Down here we have 2 little ones. So this is the base. The top is veneer. We did it, we put it together ourselves. MDF, 1-inch MDF, so it would be nice and stable. Banded first with cherry all the way around, then veneer on the top. Now, the idea was, Jake, you trade me places, so I can turn this. So the idea was, you're standing here writing up your order. Most people, and they got to sign the bill, right? So they're going to be, the average person's right-handed, they're going to be over here, and that's the signing spot. So it's okay, we have to have a place for them to access a pen or pencil. So if you look over here, you don't see it yet. Check out those cute little dovetails. There's your little, your pencil drawer. And so as we're not paying favorites to the right-handers, these guys have theirs over here as well. We just finished this one last night, actually. And that's the same piece of wood. Now, that shows off a lot more because it hasn't oxidized. This is oxidized. This hasn't. It'll catch up, and it'll completely disappear. That piece of wood came right from there. And we came up with this neat little idea for a stop so that this didn't come out. So Jake, can you see it? We have a piece of brass. Had to be heavy enough, and we made that. So you hold it up like that when you put the drawer in. Then it falls down in place and holds it. But let me show you the best side. Right? And then the last thing we have to do, and actually I think what we're going to do is we're going to make one of these drawers, and we're going to do that as one of our everyday videos for YouTube. In other words, I'll never get it done. Typically, when we're filming, doing the online workshop, to avoid a lot of duplication, once I made this drawer, well, this is going to be the same thing. But I haven't got it done yet. We're this far into it. I need to get caught up, so I figured my excuses be that I'll make it a video series, like what we just did with the table saw and the bandsaw. And this has to go in. Just to improve the fit a little bit, but in order to open it, I just have to hold that up like that. Now, this is traditional drawer construction, so you've got half blinds on the front, through dovetails on the rear. You got a solid wood bottom. You have to allow for that seasonal expansion, so that screw is sitting in a slot, and that allows that to expand, but all the expansion goes out the back so as not to disturb the drawer and affect the fit. And we haven't designed the knobs yet. Oh, by the way, got a little bit smarter if you look in here. Got a little bit smarter on the second go round for the drawer stop. So this is sloped on the front. So when you push it, put it in place, it just rides up, allows the drawer to go in, but then prevents it from coming out. Because people always want to pull the drawer farther than it should. I got to go in and just adjust that fit. Dovetails here. Best thing. Come see. So take a look at the hinge. We use the wood hinge on the lid. And, of course, what would a RobCosman piece be without more drawers than you need? So, same thing here. Little drawers. I have no idea what's going to go in all these drawers, but that's not my job. And this one, I just sprayed this, and I had to have this drawer in place to prevent spray from going inside. Now I got to get them out, but I will. But you see how that piece fits perfectly? Because what I did, I took this piece of cherry, I sliced off the top strip, I sliced off the bottom strip, I took the center section, I made a cut here, 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 here. And then I finished off the ends of my drawer front so they were nice and clean, put everything back together, so there's going to be a little interruption. These pieces will be these two pieces on either side of the center will be really close. These are going to be off a little bit. But then when you put it back together, see how the continuation of the grain, isn't that gorgeous? I love that. And then we've got to figure out, this is what we do all of this live so that you're enjoying the thinking, hopefully enjoying the thinking process goes into, okay, how do we problem solve this? The most challenging and the fun, what's that, 20 minutes? 2 minutes? Oh, I got to hurry up? Okay. What I always loved most about building furniture was you're doing one-offs. So you're constantly coming up against the challenges. Well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to figure this out? And you have to come up with a solution that's going to work over time. You can't make something that's going to wear out in 6 months. So we have to have some kind of a lid. Now, I thought about having it so that it would rest, let's say, well, I thought about having it so that it would rest perfectly against this piece, but none of the angles work. So we're going to have to come in with some kind of a clever lid stay that will be strong enough. This is fairly heavy. By the way, this is a piece of 1/2-inch MDF, banded all the way around, and then veneered. And I had some really nice thick veneer. And there's your veneer joint. Actually, Jake, just catch that. We tried to mimic here and just. So you see this joint line. This is 2 pieces of veneer, but we tried to match them up, and you kind of have that little strip of sapwood going all the way through. All right. I love this stuff. Okay. Don't forget, listen, and if you have questions, put them in the comment section, and I will try to get to them. See you tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for our live YouTube workshop, and then we'll be back again. Actually, we'll be back on Monday. See you.